Hello, friends. Welcome to Sybil's Lab on YouTube. I'm Amelia.
I'm Danielle.
And we are here today to resurrect a tag from quite a few years ago called #Council of 7, because we just wanted to participate in a conversation with some of our friends here on YouTube to talk about decks. But Danielle, tell us more about this tag.
This tag is one that both of us were so into when it came out. We're really excited to sort of resuscitate it. And the tag, as we remember it and as we review the videos, is just 7 counselors, 7 decks that would really advise you because they speak to your heart and soul. They are really informative, instructive, whatever. But we wanted to make sure that our conversation was sort of structured in parallel. So rather than just say, what random 7 would you choose? We chose 7 prompts. So we have 7 categories that both of us were choosing from that we thought were like good categories of who would be a part of a council. So we'll see who fit into each of these 7 slots. And our first one, we had fun sort of arguing over who would be like, who are the 7 categories, but what's next?
No, and it's worth noting that this was a tag that was originally created by Natalia, who is currently under the moniker Tarot Shrink now on YouTube. But this was on her older channel. I think it was called Ouroboros. And unfortunately, the original video is no longer available, but there are some still floating around of people who did responses to this back in the day. I think it was like 5 years ago that this tag was first circulating. So we'll try to link a couple below so you can see some of the older versions, but we've revitalized and kind of zhuzhed it a little bit with our prompts because we just love it so much. Okay, so Danielle, tell us what our first counselor category is.
We both immediately agreed that we need a nurturer. A nurturer, flatterer, cheerleader. Like, so who would occupy this category of a sort of maternal holding you presence? And since I introduced it, you go first. What is your deck?
So my nurturer deck is my Tarot de Saint Croix by Lisa de Saint Croix. This is an oldie. I have the first edition. The current edition that is out is borderless. It doesn't have the orange borders and it just has a black kind of title border at the bottom. But I love my old orange deck. I've had this for many, many years. And this has seen me through a lot. This has seen me through so many changes in my life. It has seen me through ups. It's seen me through downs. I love this deck so much. There is something, and I think the reason that I have been hesitant to even get the newer edition is because I actually really like the orange. There's something about it that is so warm and embracing. This deck is like the mom, this is my mom deck. This is the deck that I go to when I need that mom energy, and to feel just really seen where I am. This deck always makes me feel better, even if it's kind of calling me out on some things. It always makes me feel like I can handle whatever it is that it's bringing to my attention. I never feel overwhelmed when I read from this deck, but I feel really empowered and I feel taken care of. So this is my nurturer on my council. What is yours?
Lisa de Saint Croix painted her son, I think, as the Page of Swords. It's very sweet. I love that choice. So for mine, I chose the Sasuraibito Tarot. I'm showing the smaller one. We recently together watched the Miyazaki movie Spirited Away. We'd both already seen it, but we wanted to sort of play with some cards as we talked about it. I pulled out this deck as a part of that conversation. If you know Miyazaki's work, this feels very Miyazaki, sort of soft, but, sort of unsettling, holding you honest. And I forgot before I pulled it out how much it does that, right? Like we have a Queen of Swords. This isn't, I wouldn't say this is gentle, but I would say that it's softly chilly. I don't know if that makes sense. But then there's like the Queen of Pentacles giving the rabbits a hug. I need a hug sometimes. There's just a very holding you energy. There's something, I have both this size and the larger size, but there's something about this handheld size that also feels very calming. I do love some linen, linen cardstock. It's surprising to me. I wonder if this is true for you, how much the sensory experience of a deck, if you're feeling especially tender, really matters. How familiar it feels. Like I'm sure that your long-standing relationship with, do you know why I have all of these court cards at the top? Because we were playing with Spirit Away. So that's why you guys just looking at a bunch of court cards. But like the relationship you have with Tarot de Saint Croix, I'm sure isn't just I know these images, it's the feel of that deck. There's something kind of magical and soothing about that.
Yeah, most definitely. There are a couple of cards in the edition that I got that were like the backs of a couple of cards were textured differently, and it's worn down over the years that I've used it, but it's like it got to where I really knew those cards. And yeah, no, I totally get what you mean. That is such a beautiful deck. I remember when that came out. And
I do too. And I am always suspicious of a deck when it's too celebrated too quickly. It feels like, and people are very enthusiastic for good reason. This is an interesting dynamic take, but I was a slow adopter, but I'm very glad that I did. And I'm glad I got this small copy. There's something that feels very, I don't have to stretch my hands to shuffle it. It's just like, if I need to be held, it's not an exercise to shuffle the cards. So anyway, that is my pick, Sasuraibito.
All right. Well, our next counselor category that we picked was the healer, or like the therapist. This is the one that you go to for advice, and the one who is there to really hold you kind of in your darker moments. So what did you pick, Danielle?
I chose the R Black Tarot. Here's the back of it. This is the second edition tarot size. The first edition is kind of art construction paper, unshuffleable because it's so soft without a core, but this was made to be used. The first time I opened this deck, I had accidentally ordered, as you know, a bootleg copy, realized what it was, and then was like tortured. I had done that on accident and contacted the artist and like whatever. So I ended up getting the authentic thing. This is still in print, as is Sasuraibito, as is Tarot de Saint Croix. But I opened this and almost wept. It was so, it retains the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith meanings, I guess you could say. But this, look at this world. Like the monk wiping away the sand mandala, there's something just so, it feels so slow and like it's saying something. It insists that I slow down and pay attention. It insists that there's something really meaningful to think about. It refuses to be rushed. Yeah, there's just something magical about this deck. I don't know. Like, and it's not well enough known, I think. It's a spendy deck. So there is partially a reason why I think not a lot of folks have it on hand, and you have to contact the artist on Instagram, which means it's not so easy to just order, even if you're interested. But I think it's too little known. What are your thoughts on this deck? Look at this. I can't with the Ace of Wands.
You know, it's not one that I have, but it is one that I understand. Like, I mean, I remember being with you several years ago at StarCon, and we were just doing readings off on our own at one time, and it is impactful and it's beautiful. There is so much of that deck that actually aligns a lot with what I've learned through practicing Buddhism over the years. So it definitely, I feel the influences there. It's also so much, it's global. It feels like almost.
Like Julius Caesar for this Seven of Swords. I don't know. It's just, I don't, you know, those decks, I wasn't expecting anything. I certainly wasn't expecting to order a bootleg copy, but I opened my bootleg Make Playing card copy and just gasped. It was so like surprising. And I understood the meaning of like, oh, this art is for me. Like, this speaks to me. I just felt like I understood what the artist was doing in a way that was really unique and special. If folks want to look at all of the art, you can go to the R Black website. He has the cards posted there. But what did you choose? What's your healer therapist?
So I waffled on this one because my initial deck that I pulled for this one was a deck that I used to go to for this type of work. And that would be the Tarot of Transformation. But frankly, that's one of those decks that I haven't used in years. I will never get rid of it because it has seen me through some really intense things. And it holds a special place in my heart. But that's not the deck that I go to for this type of work anymore. The deck that I go to now is the Wild Essence Thoth by Lennon Smith, who is also, she has videos on YouTube. She's a YouTube creator, but she also has made several decks that are available on Make Playing cards. She is a big Thoth fan. And so a lot of her decks are working within the Thoth system and just esoteric tarot in general. This particular deck is her reimagining of the Thoth as like a National Geographic Thoth. This is photographic images of the natural world that she associates both color-wise and thematically with Thoth and Golden Dawn associations with cards. I love this Fool card. But the reason, and I had to kind of go, okay, what do I actually go to for this type of work? And I think the reason that this is what the deck that always comes out when I'm in those moments in my life is because what I need the most is I need to feel grounded. I need to feel like my feet on the ground. I need to feel less like I am being tossed about in the waves of life. And like I have something steady to stand on. And this deck absolutely touches that for me. I love camping. I love, my husband, my birthday's coming up and he asked me what I wanted for my birthday. And I was sad because it's 100 degrees here in Texas and I can't go on a hike for my birthday. That when I am feeling the weight of it all, I go outside. That's where I feel full. That's where I feel connected. That's where I feel grace and presence is when I'm outside. And this deck is that. And it also is that, I've talked about this before in my 3 of 3 video that I did, the tag, that Thoth is surprisingly a system that makes me feel really grounded and connected, like to an earthly experience. I think there's something about that, like working down the tree. I really connect to that idea of like Malkuth being, the end. And this deck kind of takes it a bit further. And I think I even showed this in that video in that it really is of the earth. It is of this world. It shows it all. And it just, it's hard to explain. It is like an embodied experiential version of what I think a lot of people associate with as a system as being really heady and esoteric and inaccessible. To me, this is just like, you don't have to do all of that labor to understand what it is that it's trying to say. And I feel, I don't know, it just makes me feel super grounded and
it's a beautiful
in my body. Yeah. There's some really lovely ones in here. The Hermit. I really like the Hermit. But yeah, I feel I feel like I'm in my body again when I read with this. And I find that when I'm in those really turbulent times, that's where I need to feel like I'm in my body again.
I wouldn't have guessed that. I know that you love that deck, but I'm like surprised in a good way. For folks interested in that, aren't there a few options? Like you can get it without the esoteric titles on the minors or with?
You can get it with or without the esoteric titles. She also has a couple of font options. And then on her Ko-fi, K-O-F-I, that coffee page, you can also buy a guidebook that you can print out.
Cool. I didn't know that.
I really recommend it. I am a fan of a lot of her work, but this is my ultimate favorite of hers that she's done. So yeah.
It's exciting. All right. Our next category is the best friend. We also, as we were kind of narrowing down our categories, along with best friend, this is like best friend / ally / peer / steadying rock. So like the person we can always rely on. You can always rely on me.
Well, funny you mentioned that. This is my best friend deck, is the Sorcery Underground. I've shown this before. This is, any list that is going to ask me to name top of anything, this is always going to be in there. This is perhaps one of my favorite decks, if not my favorite deck. It is sadly no longer in print. If you're interested in a deck that is kind of like this, I know Kelly Fitzgerald.
I'm going to show it. Don't.
Oh, okay. All right. Interesting. Okay. So this is made by Brian McDonald, and you can find him on Instagram, but it is kind of like a mash of Lenormand and tarot and playing cards. You can also turn the majors into a pendulum board. It's like everything in one. But the reason this one is my best friend is because it's just it's faithful. This deck has never let me down. I can go to this deck for everything too. The way you can with a good best friend, you can go to them for a laugh. You can go to them for a cry. You can go to them when you're feeling strong, when you're feeling weak, and it just never misses. It never misses for me. Do
you believe in? So in that deck, there are 3 extra cards. There is Prudence, which I think is number 23 or 22, as above and so below. Do you leave those cards in?
I do. So this is so below.
Okay.
And where is as above?
Isn't it blue?
Yeah, and as above. And I know Prudence is in here somewhere, but she's harder to find. But yeah, I do. I absolutely leave those in.
I have them.
The only deck where I do that. The only tarot deck where I leave in extra cards.
Do you know, I originally left them in because they're numbered, and I was like, I can't just remove numbers in the middle, but it is a part of the deck's language. The deck has its own language. All right, so my choice for this, you could probably guess, is also kind of what I've called in the past my soul deck, Tabula Mundi. This is the hand-sized copy. I have mentioned, I think, that when my house caught on fire, very undramatically, my neighbor needed to clean their lint trap and did not do that. So clean your lint traps, people. But our house was on fire. So I grabbed my phone, since it has your credit card on it. I grabbed this deck and I grabbed my dogs and ran outside. And I was like, a deck is your deck when you leave everything except your deck, your phone, and your dogs in the house. So during COVID, when all of us were go on the struggle bus, this is the deck I went to with everything. And I think I'd never used the Thoth system before. I was one of those people that was very suspicious of the Thoth system, but I needed a deck that didn't flinch away from the painful stuff. And, I felt the word gaslighting is so overused. It's frustrating, but I did feel a little gaslit when I would read with tarot cards that called death rebirth or the 10 of swords renewal or something. I needed ruin. Like, I needed the 10 of swords to be ruin. I needed the 9 of swords to be cruelty, because that's what it felt like in moments. For most of us, I think, lots of moments. And I needed cards that validated that, rather than like suggesting that I just didn't notice there were cupcakes all around me. So this became that deck, and it is so familiar to my hand, like filthy on its edges, soft. I love this size. It's like what you were saying with your Tarot de Saint Croix. It just feels like home in so many ways, and I can go to this deck with just about anything. So I adore it. I love it. That's what makes Mel Moline, MM Moline, my favorite deck creator. And I'll finish with this special. So there, Lust is the strength card in Thoth, if you do not know. And this is the special edition Lust card for this deck. There are 2 Lust cards, but this is the one. I have both Lust cards in the deck. I actually left both of them in. It felt very like, you know, there's a lot of lust in this deck.
Yeah, isn't it interesting how for those decks that are really special, we kind of break our own, I wouldn't say rules, but for the most part, I just don't leave in extra cards. I don't, I don't.
The faffery, the extras,
Yeah, but for those special decks, I'll leave them in there because I trust what the creator like has done with it. I trust their intentions there.
Yeah. That's actually a really good point. When you trust the creator so much that you're like, I don't know about this card, but I hand myself over to your artistic choices, your sort of structural and spiritual and, you know, aesthetic choices. All right, my dear, our next category is
the spiritual teacher
/ wise one / Zen master.
Yeah, this is, you know, and everybody's spiritual teacher is going to provide something different, but this is your spiritual teacher deck. I will say I struggled with this category because there's another category we have that I feel like there's actually a couple of them that for me are an ideal spiritual teacher. So I kind of had to like separate this. But anyway, what is your spiritual teacher deck?
I chose the Babylonian Tarot. So this deck is sadly out of print. But I almost chose, I can just sort of say, I almost chose the Kazanlar. It is a deck that is very close to my heart, but I actually use this deck more. And so I was trying to think, like, what decks do I actually already use as my Council of 7 and pick up every day and feel sort of naked if they're not close to hand. And this was that deck. You know, Babylonian or Mesopotamian mythology, the mythology of Ishtar, she's the first goddess in written record. And I do a lot of goddess work. And there are so many mythologies that are rooted in sort of origin stories that we know to be Mesopotamian origin stories. So I love knowing that. Like, I love myth, and I love the degree to which this feels like the foundation of so much myth that's elsewhere in the world. So I don't know. There is something about this. Look at this 3. When I made a video recently, I kept doing this, like, look at this 3 of discs. Look at this Queen of Cups. Oh, look at that 3 of discs. The goddess of, like, weaving, and the Queen of Cups, the goddess of the deep waters. It's just, the colors are evocative. The stories feel like they jump out. I think Mesopotamian mythology is less familiar to a lot of us than Greek or Roman, but the stories jump off of the page off of the cardstock for me. So I just love it. Yeah, what's your choice? I'm very curious. I have no idea what guess I would make here.
I find it so fitting for you that your spiritual teacher is also of intellectual interest as well. That is so you.
Scene right now.
Okay, so I picked the Weaver's Oracle for my spiritual teacher. The reason, and this is a well-loved deck, I don't know if this is still in print.
The last I checked, it was, but
okay.
Yeah, we'll have the link in the description if it is.
So this is a deck that is, so you have all of these weavers, which are, for the most part, feel like they have some strong crone energy. And I think there's something about me wanting a spiritual teacher that definitely has a crone energy. But I also want a spiritual teacher that is going to ask me to do the work. And this is a deck that absolutely asks you to do the work. So the setup is there are all of these weavers. They are members of different like tribes and groups within those tribes. And they each have an extensive story associated with them. And then from that story, there are certain like archetypes and themes that you work with associated with that. And it's so funny, right before this video, I was just telling Danielle about how I don't like oracle decks that force me to read a lot of guidebook, but this one is absolutely worth it. And when I am going to a spiritual teacher, I want them to do the work. I want them to ask, I want to come with a question and to receive a question in response. And this deck does that. It is, for me, at least, it is a deck that I have to take in very small doses. I have absolutely had the experience in the past with this deck where I have pulled a card and said, nope, not ready, and put it right back in because they are intense. They are unforgiving.
Are you saying you don't do a spread with these? You work with one at a time?
Yeah. Never. I work with one at a time. And then I will do some tarot pulls with it. But I would never, I have never, and I would never pull more than one at a time. Like, I don't know if I'm not ready for that. I know there are people that do.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are ladies that I take one at a time so that I can give them the attention that they deserve. I really feel like they don't want to feel crowded. But yeah, my spiritual teacher is one that's going to make me do some work. And that's what these beautiful women do.
The guidebook too is very, Amelia and I have talked about how we both love stories, lit professor, theater teacher, and performer. The guidebook is story based. So each of the crone weavers has this sort of 2-page spread providing the story and background of that woman, that figure, and what she has to teach us. But the creator, if I'm remembering right, is from the UK. Is that right?
Yeah.
So
just really beautiful. These paintings also, she did the paintings that are like larger than life. Like these women are taller than a normal human, the way she did the paintings. And they're just really, really lovely and stunning. And yeah, they're not going to give you an answer easily. So that's why
deck, I will pull a card and then pull tarot deck cards to see like, what is she saying to me? What should I sit with? Because if you pull out, I feel like those women would argue. You pull out 3 of those cards and they're going to argue about which one really needs to do the speaking. But it's fierce in a great way. I love that.
Yeah, she's a good deck. All right, so what is our next topic, Danielle? Or our next category, excuse me.
A wild card / risk taker. So in my mind, I was thinking like the holy fool, the person, like the fool, the joker, the one who's like, how can we be a little crazy here? You need a crazy person on your council, I think. Am I projecting? I don't know. All right, what are you?
I think you're right. This is the Noblet. I have talked about this deck before.
Please, you chose the oldest, most like sort of conservative conception of tarot. I love you for that.
You never know what you're going to get with this.
That's true.
And particularly, I mean, I love all historic tarots, but there is something in particular about the Noblet. You really never know what you're going to get. And this is a deck that absolutely asks me to push my limits and push what I think I can do with tarot. And yep.
And what
I mean,
Amelia, where did you get that copy? Because that's not the Artisan Tarot edition, is it?
no, this is the Flornoy edition. You can still get this direct from Flornoy. I think it's tarothistory.com.
Okay.
Is where they're carried. You have to like fill out a form and they'll send you an email with an invoice, but it is well worth it. They're sent directly from France. I got this edition from Tarot Garden when we were at Nude, so I've talked about this before on the channel. But Tarot Garden doesn't have any editions of this available on their website, so you have to go directly to Flornoy. But Artisan Tarot also has a really lovely edition of the Noblet if you just want something that's a little bit more accessible. It's on like linen playing cardstock, so it's also a bit easier to shuffle. I love this edition. I even love the pointy corners. I'll never round these corners. Yeah, you just never know what you're going to get. So I struggled because I also feel like this is a bit of a spiritual teacher, but in that holy fool kind of a way.
Yeah.
Because you never know what you're going to get.
I get it. But that is, maybe I'm wrong about this, but hello, viewers. Would any of you have chosen a deck from 1650 as your wild card? I live for it. This is why you're my friend. All right, my choice is the Russian Tarot Lubak. This is a deck by Tarot Mania from Etsy. A lot of folks, they make a lot of different decks. My edition is trimmed and edged in brown. But here's what I love about this deck. Here's why it's the wild card. There is not a single depiction of a card that is in any way traditional, and there are always like 4 ways to read it. So here's the High Priestess. What do you make of that? It has a fantastic guidebook, P.S. So if you look at this art and think, I really don't know what to do with this, the guidebook really provides a nice story-based dynamic account of all of the sort of miniature pictures you see in the cards. Let me try to find one. I'll find one eventually that I think has like, 7 different versions of a card, but like, look at this bizarrely delicious Queen of Wands. She has her rolling pin on the ground. She's holding a rake. There's like something going on behind her. I mean, and like, here's this 8 of coins. He's made that pile of bread. He's making more bread. There's the table behind him with people feasting. I mean, it's just full. This Ace of Cups. There are like 7 different ways to read this Ace of Cups. So there is no way to tell what like just 3 cards put next to each other are going to do. It feels like there are 10 ways to read any 3 card spread, and they're all sort of fun but challenging. Like, look at this. I'm telling you, like, you love a deck when you're like, look at this 4 of Cups. But look at that 4 of Cups.
You know what this deck reminds me of a little bit is like the Dame Fortune's Wheel. I think
Wheelhouse.
Yeah. It reminds me of that deck for some reason. I don't know.
Do you see those feet coming out of the river in this 4 of Wands? Like,
I love that deck. That deck has a sense of humor.
It has a huge sense of humor, and it is based. So the artist is a Russian emigre. I think now in Switzerland. I can be making that up, but I think he's in Switzerland. He and his partner who writes the guidebook. But the art is based on a tradition of kind of humorous Slavic art, like kind of Slavic folk art that's fun and funny. The very original edition of this deck actually had Russian language, like Cyrillic keywords on each of the minors. And so if you see like all of this space at the top of the 8 of Swords between the scene, that's where 3 different Slavic words were, Russian words were, that kind of go along. Like the 6 of Wands, what?
I love that 6 of Wands.
Fantastic. And it's a wild card. There is no this page of coins. He's like, I want to read a book too. What's in his pocket? He's about to fall in that hole. There's a church back there. The woman's really upset about something. So I don't know. It's so like fun and shaking things up. I love the sense of humor, but there's no getting around it. Like it shows you all of the pictures, and none of them are all positive. There's no, like, he's about to fall in a hole, but he's like kind of adorable. So we already know your wild card now. So our next pick is the straight shooter / reliably frank. Like reliably honest, going to tell you the truth, not going to hold anything back.
All right. Mine is more system generally, but this is a beloved version of this system, and that would be Lenormand.
Lisa got in your choice.
I know. I love. Okay, so this is worth saying. This is the Saint Croix Lenormand by Lisa de Saint Croix. Still in print. You can get this deck. I really like this version of the Lenormand because it is so clear. You know exactly what you're looking at in her images. I mean, she's got the titles on the cards as well, but even still, without the titles, I would know exactly what I'm looking at. And that's what I personally think you need in a Lenormand, is you need to know what you see. Also, I love the colors of this deck. It's really pretty when you like put them all out on a table together. But this is, oh my gosh, if you want answers and nothing else, go to Lenormand. This is, whenever I am particularly having like interpersonal relationship trials or like questionings, I go to Lenormand. It is so helpful for that. It's also just, when I'm confused and I need something that's just going to like shine a light, and that's it, Lenormand. And this one in particular, again, it's clear, it's bright, it's, of course, my beloved Tarot de Saint Croix, so it has that flavor that I love so much. But yeah, Lenormand, always gonna be Lenormand.
I love it.
What about you?
I stopped you from speaking before. I stopped you from mentioning what I would call a comparative deck that is in print to Sorcery Underground. This is Nellie's deck. Kelly Fitzgerald, The Truth in Story on YouTube, created this deck. She called it Nellie's deck because it comes along with a book that tells the story of a young woman named Nellie from Scotland, I believe, who tends to a lighthouse. So it's lighthouse themed. You'll notice a lot of lighthouse references in the deck. But it tells the story as it provides card meanings of what happened to this young woman who traveled by herself from Scotland to become a lighthouse keeper in Canada, maybe, I think, somewhere in North America.
It's like Maine. Isn't it the like New England?
Sure, yes. Someplace up there. It's based, I will say that this figure, Nellie, I'm not sure if the name is, but the person who she created this deck around, the sort of story, is in some way an ancestor, a real life ancestor of Kelly Fitzgerald. She took a long time to create this deck and talked about it on her channel as she did, about how she wanted a deck very similar to Sorcery Underground that could put together all of the systems that she most preferred. She wanted something that could do tarot, playing cards, and Lenormand. And so just like Sorcery Underground, which is actually what I would choose, but I wanted to give people like a sense of other options, and I knew you were going to put Sorcery Underground on your list. So luckily this is in print for folks who might be interested in it. Playing card size. This happens to be the silhouette of her actual daughter and son-in-law at their wedding, which is like delightful. So for the reason that you like Sorcery Underground is the reason I like this. It is it has the fullness of tarot structure. So it's not just a Lenormand. It has the fullness of that structure, and leaves room, I think, for some of the more symbolic meanings of tarot, but is still like instructive and straight shooting in the way of a Lenormand or a fortune telling deck, if folks know what we mean. And, you know, I would say playing cards in Lenormand are pretty direct. They're not very feelings oriented, at least in the way that I read them. So I like that this has the fullness of tarot, but is still like, this doesn't have any patience for my whining. If I want something that's just going to speak the truth. And in fairness, even though I would choose Sorcery Underground, because that happens to be a deck I've had much longer than I've had this deck. And that's why, you know, I'm sort of closer, quote unquote, with that deck. That deck, I do have more of a, it holds more emotion for me than this deck does. It may be because I've had it so long and we have a rapport. And maybe I just think I've had Kelly read for me before, and I don't think she'd have any patience for me. So I think of her when I read with this. But yeah. So this is a great alternative for folks who might be interested in Sorcery Underground to that deck. And I pre-ordered this. If you pre-ordered it, she sent it with the book, with a piece of sea glass, and with newspaper clippings that she stuck into the book, which was designed like a journal. So cool. I love lore.
No, and that is a great deck for, like, it tells a story. Just like the deck itself and the existence of the deck itself has such a story associated with it. But it also, yeah, no, it's a great, that is a great, I mean, I was going to suggest it as an alternative to Sorcery Underground, although they have a different feel. Like there is, even though they do something really similar, there's a different vibe to both of them, and they're both wonderful.
I think they both creators created those decks for themselves very much. I have the good fortune of speaking to the creator of Sorcery Underground informally, and he was telling me about the creation of that deck and how he used 3 different sort of spiritual or like historical references for each of the majors. So like in the Wheel of Fortune, you'll see the 3 fates, you'll see a roulette wheel, and you'll see some, you know what I mean? You'll see something else. Like Kelly, not really. She's like, here is a symbol of what this archetype means, because she, I think, is really invested, among other things, in playing card readings. This is a great deck to get if you are excited about seeing a book that is instructive about strategies for playing card readings next to Lenormand, it's fantastic, because the second half of this book, or maybe the last third of it, is extremely like, here's how to read playing cards and Lenormand and tarot as a system. And the creator of Sorcery Underground is like going on his journey and invited some people to come with him when he decided to sell that deck on Etsy for a short time.
Yeah, well, and the guidebook for Sorcery Underground too, each card has a spell that you can do with it, and it's very like folk magic practice. It's like tie a red string in a knot and keep it in your pocket for 7 days sort of stuff. It's yeah. No, I love Kelly though. She has such a point of view when it comes to like her syncretization of divination, and it is so strong and it is so clear, and I love, like, it reverberates through her work, and I love that about her and everything that she puts out. So no, that's a great deck, and that's a good, that is a good straight shooter. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at our final category, which is our kick in the pants. So this is the deck that's gonna not only give it to you straight, but is also gonna, put a little fire under your behind to get you moving. Maybe a deck that is a little unforgiving. You definitely come to this deck like hat in hand, ready to be told what's what. So what is your deck for that, Danielle?
So you chose the Lenormand as your sort of one non-tarot deck. This is my one non-tarot deck. It's the Oracle Belline. I love French cartomancy. I love French culture. I've spent a great deal of time in France many moons ago in my 20s, and I'm no longer in my 20s or near enough to my 20s. But I love this deck. It is very relatively little known in the United States and very widely known in French cartomancy. There are 52 cards, so it is what I would call a spiritualized fortune-telling deck. It has some of the directness and impatience, but there is a magic and like alchemy to the creation of the deck. There are 7 cards assigned to the 7 primary planets. There is some like sort of magic assignments to the colors and whatever. I just love the history of it. I mean, I live in air, people. I love some good intellectual backstory and story and whatever. So I do just love the history of this deck. Belline is not the one who created it. I forget the name of the actual artist, but it was kind of rediscovered by a man who found a deck that was hand created by like a dude who loved to create cards. If you buy the deck, you'll read about it in a little book. It is still very much in print. You have to order it from overseas usually. If you live in the United States, if you're in Europe, lucky you, it's all over the place.
Letitia of her Instagram handle is Letitia Cartomancy, but I know she has an actual, like, she carries some in her shop. So
that is,
I'll link it down below.
If you're a US buyer, much easier. If you are a US buyer, otherwise you would need to like order it on Amazon France or on eBay or something. If you are, I don't know what the availability of this is in, like, for example, New Zealand or something. I'm not really sure how well this is known. I suspect that it's primarily a European deck and much less known outside. But anyway, it is, live in a certain kind of intellectual, spiritual register. Like, I love the woo. I call myself a woo Catholic, so I have like, and my priest calls me an intellectual Catholic convert, which feels like a condemnation. It feels very like, I'll pray for you kind of stuff. But I love a deck that speaks to me on those terms. So there's a way in which I prefer this spiritual register that I attach to this deck more than I do to Lenormand. I'll listen to it more. It feels like it's speaking to that, but it still has no F's to give about like, stopping with my feelings. There is no reading I do with this that doesn't in some way end with, now go do something about it, and here's a suggestion about where to start. There's no, and sometimes I need Sasuraibito to just sit with me, right? Sit with me in a wound, sit with me in contemplation. This is not just going to sit with me in contemplation. It's like that, or if I have a very like, what is the meaning of life? It'll give me an answer and go do something, you fool. So it'll kick me in the pants. Much like the French had very little patience for 20-year-old Danielle. People that you know.
She learned a few things.
Yeah, that may have been more a testament to my like mediocre French skills than anything, but yes. All right, what is our final deck choice for both of us? What is your kick in the pants?
My kick in the pants, I'll show the lid, is the Forhaxa Tarot by MJ Cullinane. Gosh, this deck is mean sometimes. This is actually when I was gathering all of my decks for this video. This was the first deck that came to mind. I was thinking of all of the different prompts. Yeah, it is. It is mean. It's mean. To me, I don't know. Other people I know have different relationships with this. This is a very unforgiving deck. But it also, yeah, again, it's like, it's going to give it to me straight. It's not going to be worried about my feelings. And then it's going to tell me what to do. And from that, I'm going to know what I need to do. But yeah, she is not soft. So this is a deck, if you're unfamiliar, that MJ has kind of created this land of fairies, but it is a matriarchal, sort of society. So all of the cards are women. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I have to say about that. There are some cards in this deck that absolutely like give me nightmares. If I can, the Eight of Swords.
Everybody gets a nightmare from that Eight of Swords.
It is a nightmare card.
Eight of Air. It is an elemental deck.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find it easily or quickly. But then there are also some really touching and beautiful cards. Yeah. But yeah, it is just it is not concerned with my feelings.
Like you should the Ten of Air. That Ten of Air has a fairy whose wings have been cut off and the wings are nailed to a tree. Like that is ruthless and painful. I just you like The Office, don't you? The show The Office. I can just hear Toby saying, "Why are you so mean to me?" You sing to the fairies like, "Why are you really mean to
me?" Yeah, no. But it's also, again, it's also beautiful. Like it really is. So in this deck, because it is a matriarchal society and it's all women, the Emperor are the Council of Monarchs, which is interesting. It is worth checking out if it suits your fancy, but just be forewarned. Be forewarned.
Market. It's still in print and it's now mass market, which is great.
Is it mass market now?
No, I think. So she is also the creator of the deck, the Croix Tarot, which a lot of folks know, and some others, but I'm pretty sure it's gone mass market.
Here it is. Here is the Eight of Air. Whew. Okay. Some nightmare cards there.
Go to the deck if you're feeling a little tender. That's not.
You have to be brave to come to this deck. You got to be brave, but it is worth it. Like it is worth being raked over the coals. It's worth it.
Love it. Okay. All right, friends. We, as we like to do on this channel, are always going to wrap up with a question for the collective. So, Amelia, grab one of your decks. I have my Tabula Mundi. These are our two, our bestie decks. So, we're going to grab these. And our question for the collective today, we've talked about our 7 counselors, is what counselor do we collectively, so you and us, need to be listening to this week? Which of these counselors in the archetypal sense, so not necessarily like the wild risk taker guy, but like who do we need to be listening to this week in the big universal? All right, we're each going to choose one card and see what magic happens between the cards. I've never put Sorcery Underground. We both will sometimes read with 2 tarot decks on our own, but I've never put Sorcery Underground into conversation with Tabula Mundi. I don't think they'd like each other. I don't think they're friends. I like both creators, but All right. I have the 10 of Swords. Look at that. The Sun in Gemini. Ruin.
I have the 9 of Swords here.
And for folks who know how to read Lenormand, we have a lot of associations with birds. So 9 of Spades or the birds, anxiety, buzzing, mind that will not stop talking to itself.
Okay. You need a counselor who is going to tell you to cut that out. you need a counselor who you come to with like buzzing, anxious, like cycle of thoughts running around, and is just going to be like, stop it. Stop. Yeah.
you know, of the four suits, the sword suit is, among other things, the suit of like the mind and writing. Like this is a you got some stuff to journal about, girl, kind of pairing of cards. And this makes me think of Natalia, who is herself a professional psychologist. Like it might be time for an actual counselor this week. There is no shame, people. We both have therapists that we have seen in the past. So there's some sharpness, some darkness to deal with. And that doesn't mean it's debilitating, but it means the stuff that we all carry this week, that stuff might get in our way. So we need to somehow get it out of our way and be honest about the sort of stuff that's coming up. Don't you like that euphemism? The stuff, the gremlin.
No, but you need a counselor who's going to help you clear that stuff. And I just seeing these two cards together, it is absolutely not in a, I mean, it's going to have a sting to it. We'll put it that way. It's going to have a sting as a sword does. Okay, well, friends, thank you for joining us as we walked you through our Council of Seven. We would love to see, the reason we wanted to do this tag is because we really would love to see it kind of come back to life. I think it's a great tag. You feel free to use our categories and prompts, or just do, I think the original tag was just generally pick 7 decks that you feel like you would want on your council, at your round table, as it were. So either version, but be sure to let us know in the comments below if you do make a video so that we can go check it out. But other than that, you can find all of the information about the decks that we showed, as well as where to find us on Instagram and our website in the description box below. If you are in need of some biting crone energy, we have a reading available that either Danielle or I can do, called The Crone Speaks, on our website. It is a short but to the point reading where you get a little kick in the pants yourself. So we'll have that linked below as well, so you can check that one out in particular. But until next time, friends, we will see you in the lab.
Hi, guys.